I hear about a new movie called Runaway Slave. What can you tell us about this movie?
Yeah, it's not that new anymore. It's a movie by C.L. Bryant, a friend of mine. He's a reverend, a pastor, and he made a movie about essentially explaining what happens when black conservatives leave the plantation. But the problem is that, first of all, great movie. And I'm in it. I mean, that doesn't make it great. By the way, that actually kind of diminishes it a bit. But you should see it if you get a chance to. But the real issue with Runaway Slave is that it's no longer slavery against just, black Republicans. Yeah, we catch a lot of grief. I mean, death threats, the whole thing. Who could care less? We all got to die. But what it is the plantation really now is just government owning you. Everything that you do is government essentially dictating to you. And I will tell you, the founders of this nation, if you think King George was a tyrant, it pales in comparison to what's happening to you on a daily basis that you have no control over.
Have you considered this gun issue to be merely a cover for the horrible state of our economy?
Oh, there's no question that the gun issue is one of the tactics that they're using to deflect from the economy. Everybody, hopefully you're aware, unemployment ticked back up to 7.9%, and that's the fraudulent number. It's well above that, right? When they tell you the number, you can, add 2, carry the 5, right? So it's crazy. But it is one of those issues. But make no mistake about it, they want your guns. And it's kind of like they talked in that movie Jurassic Park, the velociraptors will test the fence, to see if it's electric. Well, that's what they're doing. They want to poll and see if they can change your mind. They call a rifle. An assault rifle is just a rifle. It's the same rifle. It just looks really cooler. It's kind of like, like my old El Camino. There's a lot cooler cars than my old 1967 El Camino. But, they aren't banning cars. I did a study on buses. You guys know how many people get killed in buses every year? Anybody want to take a guess on how many bus crashes there are every year? Just a range. Anybody want to throw out a number?
4,000.
There's 3,000 to 5,000 bus accidents every year. 6,000 people, anywhere from 4,000 to 6,000 people die in buses every year. 500 to 800, or 500 to say 1,400, depending on the year, get killed on the bus. The majority get killed in the thing that the bus hits. They ain't talking about banning buses. So, everything in politics is subterfuge. It's to get your attention off the thing that is hurting you the most, which is the economy, small business, and everything else. And yes, you can expect 4 more years of this nonsense, unquestionably.
Obama wants illegals to get citizenship in order to get votes. Is there a future for black Americans, or is he throwing the blacks underneath the bus?
Oh yeah, Obama is. In fact, Alcee Hastings just the other day was talking about, they made 61 cabinet recommendations or appointments for Obama, and he didn't take a single one. And I actually agree with Obama for a change, because the Congressional Black Caucus they are lunatics. They are absolutely lunatics. And they're holding this nation hostage with the race card. So, Alan West was a member, but he's gone now from Congress. But I forgot the actual question.
Is Obama throwing the blacks underneath?
Yeah, so, black people, it was funny, Benjamin Jealous of the NAACP, he was doing a show and he said, now, it's been a rough 4 years, and he says, now, white people have actually gained 1 point, while black people have gone down a point. And then he immediately said that it was Congress. And now think about what he said. In the worst 4 years in the history of this country, white people still managed to thrive. With a black president. Black people had it all, and we went down a point with the black president, and the very first thing that he did, he blamed Congress. They're no longer blaming Bush, now it's Congress. But the fact of the matter is, blacks have not done anything, and in fact, have worsened under Obama in every statistical category. He has not improved one.
Do the anti-gun people who say it will save one life sound like the prohibitionists in 1919? I think it's rhetorical.
Yeah, you know, I always like the old, Obama was like, if we could just save one life, and he always gets, he doesn't do it. Well, remember, he doesn't do it like that. He says, if we could just save one life, and I'm thinking, how about 4 in Benghazi? How about we start there?
Have you considered running for public office?
No.
Why not?
I have no interest at all in being in public office. Look, I go to D.C. I was in D.C. 2 weeks ago, and I'm supposed to go next week, and I'm not going to go. I hate D.C. You can literally, you guys don't think I'm joking, you can literally feel D.C. You can feel it. Just like I'm doing this now. Y'all feel that? You can feel D.C. It is a bunch of pompous 30-somethings sneaking in this legislation. And what's funny, so I was up there last time I met with senators and congressmen, guys that know me by name. Kevin, hey, Jim, what's up? Congressman, whatever. We're shugging and the whole deal. And their staffers are looking at me like I have 3 heads. They think they run things. I don't care what side of the aisle they're on. They really believe that they've got the Ivy League degrees, they've paid their dues. That's what the problem is with the Republican Party. So many people believe, I paid my dues, and where'd you come, Kevin? You came out of nowhere. And I think to myself, look, if I spent 20 years doing something, and I'm still, nobody knows me, then just get used to it. Don't be mad at the guy that somebody knows. There's only one reason why I'm relevant. It's because I'm saying something and it's resonating with people. I'm not, by the way, folks, I'm not trying to be. God is my witness. I could care less. I mean, I'm glad you guys are here. I don't want this to come out the wrong way. What I mean is, when I was doing what I was doing it because I was pissed. And it was about me and my boys and my family and what I saw this country becoming. And I just spoke out. And I remember, having this conversation with God saying, if I do anything, God, give me a voice. Because I want those suckers to know I'm pissed off at them, and I don't want to keep throwing my shoe at my TV. I want to really be able to make a change. So it's never about me or my team. We do this because, honestly, just keeping it real. You guys are chicken. You don't say what you want to say. If I'm by the water cooler and Obama got elected, somebody's like, ooh, we got him back in. I'm like, yeah, he gonna tax you behind. And I'm gonna talk much smack. And I'm gonna be as ghetto as you want to get about it, because he is wrong for this country, and I ain't backing down. And if you want to take it to the parking lot, let's go.
What is your opinion of Obama winning every vote, nearly 20,000 in some precincts like Philadelphia?
This was a third world, this was like a friggin', Sudanese or Kenyan or whatever, pick your African country election. It was the most fraudulent election in the history of man. Unquestionably. People can go, oh, Romney wasn't the best candidate or whatever. Absolutely not true. You may not agree with his politics, but that guy was a man of character. And if nothing else, that's what we should have in the office, representatives. So what we need to work on is finding out how they cheated. I want the purple finger. Yeah, seriously. I want it to last till the day is long. It needs to last 2 weeks. So it gets absentee voting and everything. You can't vote again. And it needs to be color-coded for the state that you're in, so you can't sneak across the line and go somewhere else. And my penalty would be I'll cut your finger off first, and then I'll cut your hand off after that, because I'm Hammurabi's code. Don't be cheating, because we should have a fair election and put the person in that's going to do the best job for this country. We didn't do that.
How do you maintain your optimism?
Oh, man. Secret shame? No, I'm kidding. I'm an optimist. I don't know how else to put it. You know, when you grow up, if you know that meat doesn't come in cellophane and you know, the plastic, and you know where it comes from, and you breathe fresh air, these people that tell you, we're clearing the planet have never been to the country. You know, or you see a baby calf born and you bottle feed it. Or, you know, you herd animals and do whatever. Or you just see nature in its finest. And by the way, we are the best stewards of this planet, bar none. The liberals are liars. When you see all that, you know, you just see the majestic nature of everything that this country wanted to be and became. And you watch somebody tearing it down and it just breaks your heart. You know?
What suggestions do you have for talking to your liberal adult children and their equally liberal friends about politics? You certainly not.
Go with caution.
Come to conservative forum.
Right. Have Dr. Phil on speed dial. You know, when you're talking to liberals don't understand logic the way we do, so you really have to appeal to emotion. So I'll use the 14th Amendment and the illegal alien thing. So the 14th Amendment was passed to make the slaves, the children of slaves, legal citizens, and also anybody that came out of slavery. They were saying, well, you technically can't be a citizen because, you know, you weren't from the country. There was all kinds of little technicalities in there. And it was meant to essentially patriate or make citizens of slaves. That was it. Well, it got bastardized to say if you come to the country and you have a child in America, that child is an American, which is ridiculous. That would be like me going, you know, my parents go to Korea and, you know, drop me in, you know, we have me in Korea and I'm suddenly Korean? That's ridiculous. Patently ridiculous. Okay, that's the logical argument. So what's happened is we lost the logical argument. I don't know where. I wasn't paying attention, and neither were most of you. But somewhere along the way, some liberal decided that was how that law should be applied. Makes no sense whatsoever. But once applied, now the conservatives can all agree, and here's where we get into the emotional part of the argument. A parent should not be separated from its child. Right? So we're now there's a dilemma. The baby's an American citizen, but the parents are illegal. What should we do? Well, the parents have to take care of the baby. And you go down this crazy, ridiculous death spiral that you cannot win because the parents now need to stay in America because that's the land of opportunity and the baby, blah, 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 whatever. The child is not an American, period. They need to go back home, get in line like the rest of the other people, and do it correctly.
Is Obama black?
That's just too funny. It's almost like a setup question. Okay, so let me, here's what's funny about that. My son and I were having this conversation. My oldest son, he came to visit his little brother. I have a 23, a 21, a 19-year-old, and a 6-year-old. Oops. So my oldest son, he took some time off from, he works, he's a Wharton grad, he's an amazing kid, and he knew he had a little bit of time between going to take this job that he was going to take. They recruited him pretty heavy. So he came to see his little brother, and we were just hanging out. And we love comedy. I mean, it's like in our family, it's in our blood. So we were having this conversation about black. And I'm going to say it just the way it was said, because I have to do it this way, because I'm not going to use N-word, okay? So you guys brace yourselves. But there's a comedian, his name is Paul Mooney. Oh, yeah. And Paul is the most racist comedian on the planet. He used to write for Richard Pryor, Eddie Murphy, all these guys, and he is hysterically funny, and he's been on the Dave Chappelle show. And he talks about this, no white people. White people are very up. White people are mean-spirited. And that's the way Paul Mooney talks. But he said something amazingly profound that will answer that question for you. And I'm warning you, language. So he said, everybody wants to be a nigga, but nobody wants to be a nigga. Now, that's a deep, deep comment. You guys are laughing, but I'm telling you, that is an amazing comment. Because he described Obama in that comment. Obama wants to be thought of as down with the black folks. But he is so far removed, he doesn't want to be it, but he wants to appear it. That was profound. And that is Obama. He is not, Obama has as much of the black experience as this young lady sitting in front of me right here. Is zero. But everything that he did was orchestrated to appear to have this black credibility. And it's completely fraudulent.
When did you become conservative? What made you one?
At conception. I've been a conservative since I was able to think. Seriously, I remember, I talk about it on my blog. I was watching, my grandparents were staunch Democrats. They would shut you up if you said anything anti-Democrat. And I was always anti-Democrat. Because, you know, they would be like, well, we need to have school programs for this. And I'll be like, no, we don't. We don't need no school program. You know, I mean, I was that kid. It just never made sense to me. They were so always defeatist. And I remember Reagan had lost, and he was giving a speech after losing, and the dude was like, hey, so I lost. But listen, I'm going to be back, and America's going to be strong, and he's doing the old Reagan mechanical moves, and I remember thinking, that's my boy right there. I can relate to this. He lost, but he wasn't a loser. You watch guys lose now, and they're losers. You know, I lost, I'll see you. You know, he's like, I'm the guy, I lost, wait till that. What you want? I'm that guy. And that was me. I watched Reagan, and that was it. And so I was always that way. I always have been.
What must Republicans, or I would interject conservatives, do to win the next presidential election?
I think we got to address the fraud issue. That's number one. Yeah, and then the second thing is I think that I think picking candidates and all that is going to be part of it, and you guys are starting that whole evolution the Tea Party and the grassroots movement is. Yeah, but I really think that, I wouldn't worry so much about just winning the next election as winning all the steps that it takes to get to that. So in other words, win the school board, win the city council, win this, win that, win the judges. All these things matter. And they don't seem like it until you get some district judge that does something and you're like, seriously? 5 years in prison and $500,000 for unlocking my cell phone? Guilty. So I think you got to win them all. But I don't know that there's a formula per se, except rally everybody, stay in it. They expect you to just kind of go away. Just please go away. And they're doing everything they can to demoralize you. If you hang in there, well, you'll tire them out.
Well, here's one of them that I'm going to have through. What do we do about our government schools? Come to our education forum next month.
The government schools? Government schools are the biggest ripoff on the planet. It is a conveyor belt of ignorance and liberalism, but, I'm redundant, right? It really is, and it's pathetic that we would have a system that's this broken and nobody wants to fix it, but the teachers' unions are so strong that they can do whatever they want. You take your most precious commodity and you put it into that cesspool that doesn't educate your kids, and many times molest them. Think about this. Your child, your 18-year-old daughter goes to college and a 60-year-old professor is macking on her. And guess what? They flirt with these girls, have relationships with them. Oh, it's practically condoned. I mean, can you imagine that if you were a CEO of a company or you were a middle-level manager and some intern comes to work there, you get thrown in jail for what we let these fools do. It's crazy. All the rules are thrown out the window. This is the worst system. 100% of the money goes to 70% of the kids in the education system. If you homeschool, if you were in a church, a faith-based program, or any other private school, none of your money goes to you. 100% goes to educate, and I use that word loosely. 70% of the kids in America, who we all know, 50% of that number isn't even going to make it. And what's funny is when I was getting my fellowship at the Dole Institute, I argued with a liberal professor about this very point, because he sat over at the corner smug about the education system in America, and I compared it to manufacturing, and I'll do it for you here. I said, if you were a manufacturer, you'd be fired. You get half the kids, before it reaches your part of the product line, Mr. Professor, half of them are gone. So then you take them, and you know what they tell you in college? Look to your right, look to your left. Somebody's going to be gone. They brag to you that you're going to be out of there. And they call it's a weeding out process. Really? Does manufacturing weed out? Or does it make its product better? So I'm talking to this guy, and I said, the problem with you is you have never worked in the real world. You believe you're just trying to get the cream of the crop. Well, you know what? Every student in there is the cream of the crop in something. Yeah, that's right. You got to find it. That's what his job is, but they don't know. They don't take it seriously. Last question.
Why are Black Americans so ignorant of their history since the Civil War?
Well, education. I mean, white Americans are ignorant of it too. And you can't promote anybody. You can't make people feel good about who they are. You have Mexican kids flying the Mexican flag over the American flag in schools in East LA because they have more pride in their Mexican heritage because nobody's teaching them what Mexicans have done in this country legally. So as soon as you start challenging that pride, challenging them to say, do you even know what your culture has brought to this country? You should be proud of what this country has become. I had a guy, when I was in New York on Glenn Beck's show, and he was a liberal, film guy, but he liked me. And he was like, man, you got a minute to get some coffee. And we were outside, we were looking at, New York City, Manhattan. And he said, we just rapping about stuff, and he's giving me the liberal point of view, and I'm kind of straightening him out. And not physically. Didn't have to come to that, thankfully for him. But he says to me, he was like, man, Kev, you gotta admit, man, you look up at these big buildings, and there were skyscrapers all around us. He says, and you see all these white men, titans of industry, and man, they getting over. And I said, man, why you slap your grandmother like that? And he goes, what? I said, why would you slap your grandmother? That's what you just did. And like most of you, he didn't understand what I meant. And I said, you know how those white men became titans of industry? Your grandmother raised them. My grandmother raised a bunch of white people's kids. The family I was telling you about, they had more respect for my grandmother than they did their own parents. So every time you criticize this country, you're criticizing something that your grandmothers and great-grandmothers and great-grandfathers built, because we were the ones telling these little kids, don't do that. Behave, listen to your parents, and so on and so forth. And if it weren't for liberals, we'd be in these buildings. Thank you for your time, folks.
Over here in the corner.
Right.
We'll be trying to